The topic of the Donner Party is not unique to the film. It was raised by Stephen King in his novel, where it appears a couple of times. The first is in Chapter 8, where it was a thought going through Wendy's mind. The literary Wendy knew exactly where the incident had taken place. In contrast, Kubrick's Wendy questioned the location, thus allowing the subject to be discussed in the film. She thinks of it again in the novel in Chapter 10, when Halloran is detailing all the food in the Overlook. The connotations were less to do with cannibalism and more to do with the dangers presented by severe weather in the hazardous environment of the mountains. The notorious incident involving the Donner Party occurred in the winter of 1846 in the Sierra Nevada mountains, which bordered Nevada and California. It principally concerned two families, one called Donner, the other Reed. Starting from Springfield, Illinois, they joined other pioneers in Independence, Missouri, from where they set out on the Westward Trail on the 12th of May, 1846. Shortly afterwards, they became part of the Russell Party. On the 28th of May, Sarah Keyes, the elderly mother of Margaret Reed, died from advanced tuberculosis. The established route west was the Oregon Trail, but an entrepreneur called Lansford W. Hastings claimed to have discovered a shorter route to California and was keen to promote it. He sent letters to the pioneers who were already underway, one of which was received by the Donner family. Hastings said that he would meet interested parties at Fort Bridger in Black's Fork and lead them from there. On the 20th of July, the settlers, including the Russell Party, split up. Most took the Oregon Trail. A smaller group opted for Fort Bridger. They needed a new leader and nominated George Donner. It was therefore around this point in time that the Donner Party was formed. The Donner Party arrived at Fort Bridger on the 27th of July, only to find that Hastings had already left several days beforehand. After 4 days of rest, the settlers continued on their way. They were now 11 days behind the leading group, which was known as the Harlan Young Party. Other families and people had joined the group of travellers. On the 25th of August 1846, one of these, a young man of 25, died of tuberculosis. He therefore became the first fatality in the Donner Party. His name was Luke Halloran. It was in the late October, but earlier than they expected, that the snows began to fall and the families became stranded. Their location was near Truckee Lake, now Donner Lake, close to what is now the town of Truckee. Famously, of course, the survivors had to resort to cannibalism. So how might Kubrick have used the Donner Party? Firstly, the name of the group led by Lansford Hastings, the Harlan Young Party, would probably have been a source of interest to Kubrick. In 1957, while making Paths of Glory, Kubrick met the woman who became his third wife and who is now his widow. Her name was Christiana Harlan. Her brother Jan became Kubrick's executive producer on all his films from A Clockwork Orange onwards. Secondly, the first victim in the Donner Party was called Luke Halloran. Dick Halloran, the chef of the Overlook, did not die in the novel, but was the first victim in Kubrick's film. So was it the coincidence of the names which inspired Kubrick to kill off Dick Halloran? Another coincidence connecting the name Halloran and Kubrick comes courtesy of Dr. Strangelove. The character Lothar Zog, the leper colonist bombardier played by James Earl Jones, was originally to have been called Halloran. Now I also believe that Kubrick exploited the location where the Donner Party incident happened, which is near to where the town known as Truckee is situated nowadays. Although easily overlooked, like most important things in The Shining, Kubrick also included a subtle reference to Truckee in the film. As Wendy is answering the phone to Jack, a movie is playing on the television behind her. That film is Carson City. Carson City concerns the construction of a real railroad. To better protect the transfer of his bullion from his 10 properties in the Comstock Lode, the Central Pacific Railroad Company agrees to construct a line between Carson City and Reno if banker William Sharon funds a stretch between Carson City and Virginia City. The actual completed railroad not only incorporated the name of one of the cities, but also derived another part of its name from a nearby river. It became the Virginia and Truckee Railroad, and was notable for the feat of engineering in a very mountainous area. Now, as mentioned, Sharon explicitly references the Comstock in an early scene of the film. So does Stephen King in Chapter 18 of his novel. Carson City, therefore, neatly unites these explicit references to both the Comstock Lode and also the Donner Party. It's interesting to note, before discussing Carson City further, that the cartoon Danny is watching earlier also provides a potential parallel to that film. This is an episode of Roadrunner and Coyote called Stop, Look and Hasten. Particularly noteworthy is the fact that the scene Danny is watching, which is discernible through the background music we hear, takes place on a very mountainous railroad. So once again, does the cartoon represent a light-hearted flip side to the more serious film Wendy is watching? Well, let's just hope it's that, and not the somber warning that the Coyote gives us. But to finish off with Carson City, the scene depicted from the film shows the engineer Jeff Kincaid in a heated debate with William Sharon. This debate revolves not only around a brawl Kincaid and his men were involved in, but also about a revolutionary, experimental technique he was employing to build the tunnel. Sharon is reluctant to fund this experimentation. The technique in question was to start the tunnel at both ends and meet in the middle, a standard method in tunnel building nowadays. But let me finish this brief presentation by leaving you with a possibly provocative thought, one in line with the contention of a light-hearted side to The Shining I've been strongly hinting at in this series. What if Kubrick considered this image of controversially building a tunnel from both ends to be a metaphor for how he wanted to construct his film? What, if he were to start a horror film at one end, would be the nature of the film at the other? So thank you for viewing this presentation. I hope the content was of interest, even if the production values left something to be desired. I'm afraid I'm not too gifted in that area. Also, please remember that this is just one small facet of the puzzle that is The Shining. To learn more, you'll need to follow the breadcrumbs, as it were, and view further presentations. So if you're interested in doing that, please remember to like, subscribe and share this one. Thank you.